Most Russians are still indifferent to the war unleashed by the Kremlin against Ukraine. Both British and Russian analysts are sure a significant part of the citizens of the Federation is trying to fence themselves off from the Russian-Ukrainian war. Those who are categorically for or against the Kremlin's aggression are a minority.
The Russians are not eager to fight in Ukraine. I would say that there are about the same number of Z-heads who really want to fight as liberal oppositionists. That is, there are not many of them. Jade McGlynn, British expert on Russia and politics of memory, from a book War of Russia. There are those who actively oppose the war, but they are minority. There are those who are actively in favor of the war, but they are also a minority. Accordingly, there is a large part, probably the majority is a swamp, but it is also different. That is, there are those who I would not say that they support the war, rather support the authorities simply because it is easier to live this way. And there are those who are rather against war, but are silent because it is dangerous.
At the same time, among those who support the Kremlin's aggression, there are representatives of various ideological trends, experts are sure. This is a product of many years of anti-Ukrainian propaganda in the Russian media.
Let's not forget that Putin prepared the Russians for what is happening now for more than 20 years. They have been engaged in propaganda, fooling the Russians, and very well practiced various ways to manipulate their society. So now he is using it. Therefore, I think that support for Putin in Russia is quite large. Perhaps it is not entirely unshakable. Perhaps there are certain, let's say, centers of critical thinking, but this is critically small compared to those who really support the current government in Russia.
With critically thinking Russians, Ukrainians are offered to conduct a dialogue with Russian opposition forces. This, they assure, will bring Ukraine's victory closer and provide an opportunity to liberalize Russian society after the end of the war and the change of power in the Federation.
I am not comparing anyone with anyone. I am simply stating the fact that Hitler's support was strong for some time after the end of the World War II, and only this gradual explanation to people of the reasons for what happened allowed the situation to change. But if we return to today, then it is very important that now part of Russian society and part of Ukrainian society begin to talk about how to rebuild relations after the war.
Ukrainian experts insist that no matter what happens in Russia after the end of the war, Kyiv must receive security guarantees, such as joining NATO and the European Union. After all, the risk of revanchism sentiments in the Federation cannot be ruled out.
We must prepare for the fact that the danger factor of Russia is not going anywhere, even after we return all our territories to the borders of 1991. Just the front line, it will go to the borders with Ukrainian, let's say, territory. We are not going to size the lands of the Russian Federation, but in any case, Russia will not stop and the confrontation will be in this position for a long time.
Opinion polls show that Russians, when compared with last year's survey results, are now showing greater readiness for peace with Ukraine. Putin's hypothetical decision to stop hostilities would be supported by 66% of respondents, while 24% opposed. Reported by Roman Smoler, Larisa Zubenko, UATV News.